We can do it. We can raise the vibe. We can raise it.
Good energy. I love it. Let's
Here, have a mic.
Wicked, thank you.
It's all yours, fella.
Thank you very much for the good energy. It's a bit like a comedy stand-up. It felt like. So come on then, gang. Come on up. The whole line of us. Do I get a seat? Bad at counting. Une, deux, trois. I do. So yeah, transforming gaming through governance, DAOs, guilds, tokenized social communities. So I'll let everyone introduce themselves. I'll introduce myself first. I set up NFT Gallery in London 2 years ago as a DAO and Metaverse Fashion Council and work for Serotonin in New York. On to Anna.
Hey everyone. Great to be here and see a lot of familiar faces on the London scene. So I'm Anna. I'm co-founder and CEO of Rogue Fox Guild, which is a post-apocalyptic social blockchain game. And we are based in London, but our community is super global actually. And we've been going on for almost a year. And building a community, release the game, and enjoying ourselves.
Right. Hi everyone, I'm Russell Bennett from the Metacade. We are a week old, so we're just starting our journey. If the sun reflects off my head too much, apologies. But I've been in blockchain for 4 years, advised on startups, a couple of software companies, very interested in community application and also cross-chain using communities in other projects.
Hi guys, I'm Tommy Jamet. I'm the head of blockchain product at Boomland. We've got a team that have the experience of bringing 200 games on Web2, accumulated 1.5 billion downloads on the app stores. And now we're bringing that experience to Web3 through our first game, Hunters on Chain, that you can play a demo at our booth. And we're having that as a first game to bring. We're going to bring an additional lots of other games to the platform, but this is the first steps.
Hi everyone, I'm Luke Gibson. I'm a co-founder and COO of Playmint. We're an on-chain game studio, so we're trying to push the boundaries of what's possible, building a game out of smart contracts and trying to get as close as possible to fully decentralized game. So our first game that we released this year was called The Crypt. It allowed anyone who had a loot NFT to play a kind of Top Trumpsy experience and mint another NFT if they were successful in a raid. And we're working on our second game, Dawn Seekers, which is more of a kind of open world MMO where people can explore and build on that world together.
Hi everyone, my name is Nordin Aboud. I'm the CEO of NovaQuark. We started the company in 2014, had a Kickstarter in 2016, trademarked the Metaverse company tagline in 2018, and released our first game after 8 years of development a month ago. And so I'm here to share the learnings about our community, based on the fact that Dual Universe, our game, is fully built by the community. And now we are looking at new ways of leveraging the community, including Web3. So happy to share and learn with the rest of the speakers. Thanks.
Cool, super exciting stuff. So, I suppose in like the current present framework, that we can address DAOs as like community. This is the word we all hear in all year through NFT, community. But you will have communities and existing products, and I suppose the big Web 2 or traditional competitions are like Roblox, Fortnite, and these Minecraft. So how, I suppose we can go in order, how do you see your community currently, and then how do you see the advantages or openings or opportunities to grow or merge those two spaces?
Yeah, great question. And I really love your examples there. So community in gaming has existed for a while. the difference with Web3 gaming communities is that it's more involved than ever. So community is no longer just your user base, right? They're no longer just player or user base. They're active participants in the creation, in the creative process. I've got a little video. I don't know if you guys get around to playing it. Let me know if you do. But I think before we go into governance, yeah, I wanted to just show some, demonstrate. So we have a few things, 3 aspects that I want to talk about, which is getting into governance. But essentially, first of all, this video was created by a community member, right? The community member spent 4 hours unpaid by their voluntary to do this. I haven't made anyone do this, but they just love the project so much. Second of all, you're looking at, these are all live community members participating, right? They use the space to create, to chat, to create their own, metaverse. Second of all, it's community as creators. So, for example, what we've done there is we've put in-game assets that are created not by us, the team, but by community members. So that's second of all. And finally, I would say one great thing is virality. Virality in that your community members can now share their experiences. They can really be active promoters of your project, brand ambassadors, which wasn't never to such a point and to such a scale in Web 2. And now it's happening with Web 3. But quickly on the topic of governance and where that's going, of course, we have NFTs, there is governance tokens, there is, of course, the tokenization of the process, which I think, I don't want to go into too much detail. Generally, I think around what token is, right? But tokens do provide the opportunity for that community to feedback, to create, to make decisions in a much more decentralized way. And that's the beauty of Web3 versus Web 2. So it's no longer a company that kind of decides on the top, that's what we want to do. We spend 1 year building this. It's out in the market. Okay, there you go, players, now you enjoy. It's like, how can we involve that community to be with us every day, every part of the process, to which we're releasing every month, we're having a new release, we try, we test, we talk to the community every day on what they want to see in the game. And that's how I see Web3 community in gaming, and that's how I see true decentralization in Web3 gaming.
Tough one to follow, that one. So the way I view governance is in 2 parts. I've seen DAOs work very well in the gaming community. I've also seen DAOs fail hugely in DeFi, where you give people investment decisions, probably not the wisest thing to do. But when we come back to the gaming space, what we're all left with in this bear market are huge communities who are desperate to be engaged. Most importantly, you can take them on a journey with you from a product, a platform, and a decision basis. And over time, you can hire key people into your senior team with the overall goal, particularly in our case in Metacade, is to hand the keys back of the project to the community at some point. So DAO governance is very important, but I think it has to be structured with the community over time. I think a lot of projects have failed because they've set their stall out about what they believe to be a DAO. And then worked out halfway through it's not quite working. So for me, it's an emergence of a DAO rather than this is what it is, this is what we're doing.
Good one. Hard to follow against that as well. I think what fascinates me about Web3 communities is the capacity of creating an environment where different companies that could be in Web2 ecosystem that could be seen as competitors, creating an environment where the community of those 2 platform or project could actually synergize really well together, and creating what I like to call co-opetition environment, where companies don't really compete against each other but add their community together to create product or environment that weren't really possible otherwise. So that's what I really like.
Cool, lots of good ideas. I think with for us, when we did the crypt, we benefited a lot from being able to build on top of the loot ecosystem. So the fact that there was not just a set of people that owned the loot NFT, but also people that were building their own stuff on top of it. When we released our game, there was a whole bunch of other people that were like, oh, cool, there's something else I can do with my loot NFT. And actually, a lot of those people were builders, which initially freaked us out a bit because we were like, oh, isn't the audience supposed to be people who just enjoy playing our game rather than people who are building their own stuff? But I think that's one of the things that's really exciting is that you're, right now, the opportunity is to get experiences out in front of everyone else that's building their own stuff, and you get really, really great feedback. I think the other thing that's exciting, so that's kind of like interoperability, I suppose. The other thing that's interesting to us is actual proper decentralization. So DAOs are really cool. I quite like DAOs. I'm in some DAOs. We kind of think that maybe they don't go far enough, because if the kind of dominant idea of how decentralization works in a DAO is maybe voting or something like that, then you're at the risk of things like design by committee or tragedy of the commons, where the kind of like statistical outcome is maybe not the ideal outcome for a good product. That said, if your kind of dominant metaphor for decentralization is something more like Bitcoin or Ethereum itself, where the system is decentralized, and so you have different people providing infrastructure, and they're rewarded for providing infrastructure, and other people can just choose to transact on top of it or engage to the level that they like to. And for us, we're really keen to push this idea of like, can you decentralize a game like to that extent? Can you make it so that one set of people provides infrastructure, another set of people provides content, another set of people just play whatever they want to play? And I think just to one of the pushbacks we get from kind of traditional games companies, so I was at Mediatonic where we did Fall Guys, and then we got bought by Epic, home of Fortnite, so very familiar with the games industry. And one of the pushbacks we get from people in those worlds is you're not going to get good quality user-generated content. Now that's possibly true, right? But it is true. But I don't know if any of you guys have seen the thing with doubloons on TikTok in the last week, where it's essentially like this emergent, crowdsourced RPG, which people are just making up. And they're terrible videos. They've just got this same song in the background, and a little cat comes up and gives you a certain number of doubloons. And this whole world has emerged around it with a police force and robbers, shops. There's a bank. There's all kinds of stuff. And so I think, potentially a fully decentralized game opens up something that's more like D&D, live music, something that allows something to emerge out of a community that, a bit like you were saying, Anna, they're really part of what's going on, not just fans of the game.
I would say also, you mentioned the quality of what the community can build. What I can tell you from our experience is Dual Universe is exactly like Minecraft or Roblox, so it's running with voxels, which are those basically 3D pixels and shapes. But what we are bringing with Dual Universe is that our technology gives you the possibility to have classic 3D meshes, so the visual quality is higher. And we're actually quite happy of the quality of what the community has built. And if we look at what happened over the years, lots of stuff that we just discussed, community council, big content decisions, even the community helping us in terms of virality, we saw it. We actually saw it since the Kickstarter in 2016. And I think that to a certain extent, in that field, probably with Web3 can be bigger, but it's not something that new. I think probably the biggest difference I can see, and that's something we haven't seen up to now because we are looking at multiple options, is the capability for the community to actually have a financial participation. Obviously, when you do a Kickstarter, you just pre-buy basically the game, but there's a limit to it. I believe that thanks to Web3, you can probably make staking, you can bet, you can invest more money, and actually, let's face it, game development is very, very expensive. You were talking about D-Labs. I spent 15 years at Ubisoft. I worked on the last two big Ghost Recon games. You know the price of big 3D games, and even Dual Universe had a big budget, and obviously it's not something that you can do with a Kickstarter. So if, thanks to Web3, the people can actually put their money where their mouth is and give us the possibility to build big, ambitious content, then maybe we could be in a situation where the community is not just having their say as a community council, but they're actually backing you, hopefully for the best.
Cool. So, yeah, I loved what you said there about interoperability, Luke. Super insightful. So, yeah, I think that's a really practical thing that we could ask about, actually. And also what you mentioned about stage decentralization. So, because I'm sure people are interested in making DAOs, setting up this process themselves. So, in your current framework of how you're actually designing it, where does like your position as a leader, a product developer, a metaverse creator, then community and community ownership sit for you? Like, how far are you willing to decentralize or planning to decentralize at different stages to activate the community?
So definitely both great points. And I want to start with the interoperability question. I think that's definitely more something we've thought about quite deeply. So yeah, everyone talks about interoperability between games, and this is something that is not 100% there yet. It's probably not even 20% there. So there are a few questions in mind. How do you do this? How two different 3, 5, 10, 100 different centralized entity get to a point to work together to allow this interoperability, which is a great thing, by the way, for the players. How do they collaborate in such a way? One thing that you can do, because at the end of the day, this is the blockchain, this is Web3, smart contracts are public, and something that we've thought about is integration just in our game for assets from other games and other collections. That is pretty great idea, actually, I think. So it's allowing our game to read those contracts and provide bonuses for communities and for other Web3 games in our game, right? In this way, there is no questions of like, what about the style? One game is 2D, another game is 3D, which I think is the biggest challenge here. 3D worlds are different to build than 2D worlds, and even if you use the same creation tool like Unity or Unreal, it's still very difficult aesthetically to match the aesthetic, and it requires more development work to actually allow, say, I don't know, Clone X, which is 3D character, or a Bored Ape that is 3D into a 2D game, right? But what you can do is read the contract, and there is a lot that can be done around that. So a game reading another contract and doing some integrations on that basis. So the second point around community, I think it's a great point. In our community, what we've done and what I've personally done is identify the strengths for each community member, not each, but a lot of them. And you can see the strengths point by point, right? What those community members do best. And yeah, divide it into work stream categories or modules, however you want to call it, and utilize it this way. Now, for DAO, I think that's we are a little bit on the small side. I think to be a DAO, for me, you have to have tens of thousands active community members, but that's probably just my opinion. I think if you make a DAO that is too small, the governance still go to the very few people, and we want to avoid that. So, but what you can do before you're a DAO, and by the way, you can start to build a community without even being a DAO, right? You can start today. And what you can do is every community member find their strengths and start to utilize their skill set. And just lastly, an example that happened more recently, our website is out of date, right? And a community member is a web designer, and the other day, he comes to us and presents a website design. And I'm like, how did you do this? Like, it's super phenomenal to see people excelling, community members excelling at something that they do best, and the centralized entity at the top, the creators, then using that skill set, which I think is very beautiful.
Okay, I don't have the headache of building a game. We build a platform, so I'm very glad that the interoperability part, I can literally shift past. But the most important thing we're seeing and what we've been talking to our community about, are two things, and that is the actual interoperability or the portability of communities. Now, I don't know if you know, but we're in a bear market right now. Yeah, I know, sorry.
No way.
I hate to break that to you guys, newsflash. But what's becoming incredibly apparent are there are a lot of independent game developers, studios, businesses that would absolutely love 2,000 eyes, 20,000 eyes on their product or project at any given point. So we've identified in the Metacade that our community, if we're going to decentralize it and create governance in our community, we also have to offer huge value on top of that. And whilst we're building our platform, building our business, we're not going to be able to do that in real time. So what we've been doing is talking to other projects that need help. And it's very simple. The project itself will come in, offer a bounty or a reward. A part of our community will show interest. They'll go over to that project and they'll enjoy that experience, whether it's a UAT experience or a game loop check, or is this game any good? Am I wasting my time? And then those tokens or that reward will be distributed into the community. And this, I think, after the first phase of gaming that we've gone through, we're now going to start to see the emergence of general collaboration within communities where projects like us on this panel here will be able to talk to each other in a way and say, look, we really want to push this release of our product. Can we talk to your community about it? I think that's where we get genuine momentum in a bear market, is being open enough to talk about the fact that no one's trying to nick each other's communities. What we're trying to do is offer our community and eventually our DAO the opportunity to go and get a lot of experience across the board, get rewarded for it, but also see value in our projects by making that opportunity happen.
That's beautifully said.
Oh.
We're looking at interoperability, and we're looking at governance as well, and distributed governance as well for the project we're building. But we're looking at it from a gaming perspective, and we're looking at it from a game loop perspective. And what's crucial and at the center of our attention, we don't believe that the main pain point in interoperability comes from the fact of reading contract or the difficulty of reading it. I wouldn't totally agree on that. What we find the most challenging is that when you have an asset on one platform and you want to utilize it on another game, you don't want to break the economy, you don't want to break the balance on the second game that you're building on. And we find that that's the key challenging element in interoperability, is that maintain of balance. So when it comes to integrating a distributed governance factor, and what is the right level of governance when you integrate distribution of authority, what is the right level of distribution? Should all of the decisions that impact the gameplay be taken by the community that may not have the right knowledge of what a good balance is in a game? And kind of finding that right balance between what you allow the community to choose on and what shouldn't be taken out of an experienced game studio is, I think, a key metrics to identify. I'm not saying that it should be completely decentralized, or maybe it should, but the mechanics and check and balance that you need to find in order to not completely kill the game loop and the overall balance of your game needs to be really, really well crafted.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree. I think in some ways the problem with interoperability is still like a licensing and a biz dev problem. Like either the license lets you use the stuff or it doesn't, in which case you need to go and do some biz dev. And I think what's interesting in like the Lootverse certainly is that one of the teams, I think it was the Rift team, came up with an XP system for like coming to terms with the fact that different loot bags are accruing or losing value depending on their use in different derivatives. And so, you know, is a really interesting example. That actually was one reason for us why we kind of moved slightly away from the Lootverse, where we was kind of like, well, maybe we want to do something slightly different. And I think for me, I am going to take the position of the decentralization maxi, but I think part of the problem is, as game designers and developers, we tie ourselves up in knots when we think about, yeah, but we can't trust a community to make the right decisions around game design. Game design is really, really hard, and it's a miracle games get made. But then you see these things like the doubloons thing, and like the people playing on Minecraft and Roblox, and they're making stuff, and it kind of offends the sensibilities of a lot of game designers and developers. They look at it and they go, this is crap, you shouldn't be enjoying this. But people are enjoying it, and they're enjoying being part of what's going on. So I think that's the extent to it. I'm not saying that there won't be a place for great, well-made games. Obviously, those things are still really, really important. But I think what's interesting for us and new and unusual about the opportunities in this space is the opportunity to make something that is fully decentralized and allows people to kind of just mess around and find out.
I will be very cautious, as a game maker, I will be very cautious on the tech side. It's not just the engines. Actually, any person who's made a little bit of coding knows that porting any piece, even one line of code from one code to the other, is nearly impossible or very difficult. So obviously, I'm talking about as a game maker. It's very different if you're working on the platform, because by definition, if you're on the platform, there's some common stuff. And to give an example, Dual Universe is running with our other big piece of technology, which is a single shard. So the whole game is running on one server. Obviously, you can use this tech for other games. However, I would be lying if I would say you can just do it like that. It's deep coding in your engine. And so sharing real 3D content with something which is in Dual Universe with another game, it's not that easy. I think the interesting part that I can see in the short term is really about what you said about licensing. If we could find a way for the communities to express themselves and to start moving around, and which would push the information to the game maker, but also to the owner of the other license. And right now, in Dual Universe, because you can build anything, we spend lots of money and time actually looking at the content of the community. Most of it, we can keep it, but when they start being too interoperable and taking influence from IPs we don't own, we are forced to kill the content, send them a nice letter, but we are a space game, just imagine what they can build. However, if we would find a way that the communities who are actually very important for other big space franchises, and they could find a clear message, which is, we'd love this IP go in Dual Universe, it will be a way, I think, to make the deals easier. Because instead of having to go for a licensing deal, it will send a clear message to the IP owner that the community is pushing there. And then I think finding a deal would be easy. But that's really where I can see something really new.
Do you have X-Wings and lightsabers?
Maybe. Maybe. But maybe you're part of my community.
Just to add to both Tommy and Luke's points, I think, Tommy, I absolutely agree with you. Game economics, good game economics are complex, right? So you can't 100% leave it for for a group of people to decide. However, for me, truth is always somewhere in the middle. It's like you as a team, you can make a sensible decision. For example, maybe don't allow this Bored Ape that you've integrated to have, 90% of melee bonus in a player versus player battle. So there is some common sense and some thinking that can happen there, around interoperability. So just making a sensible choice there. Now, on Luke's point being a decentralization, Maxi, I like that a lot. On that point, I think the key there is that, yes, you'll be surprised how many clever ideas a community can come up with. So yes, I'm also decentralization, Maxi. I'm the optimist around this, because you'll be surprised. Now, the other thing is, yes, find the balance so that your team maybe makes the final decision, but allow the community to see what you're thinking there, and things like game economy and things like tokenomics. Maybe don't have that behind closed door in a company meeting. Maybe just even do the brainstorming sessions of your team and the tokenomics and game economy charts that you do as a gaming company, right? Do this more publicly. Do it early on. Do it more transparent. And this is why you get your community happy. Some problems can be flagged and spotted early on, yet you as a team, yes, you are probably the one to make the final decision on this.
Cool. Well, on that note of transparency, I think it's time to finish. So,
Let's do one more question. Is there another question? No.
someone must be curious.
Did we scare you?
That's it. You obviously silenced the crowd, and that takes some doing, folks. So on that basis, that these guys and girls have been able to silence you into submission, I think they deserve a big round of applause. So come on. Cheers, folks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay.